Who are the top 10 Dynasty running backs heading into the 2021 season? We're going to count down starting at number 10. Now, be advised that this does not count incoming rookies. This is, of course, before the NFL draft. So these could change. Check back in later on after the draft and see how these rankings have changed. But for now, here's who we got. Chris, start with number 10. Who's the first running back on our list?
At number 10, we have second-year running back DeAndre Swift of the Detroit Lions. As we left the 2020 season, I don't think either of us really were all that high on DeAndre Swift. Not necessarily because of the player, but because of the situation. But things have taken a turn here, right? Looks like Matthew Stafford is going to get traded. He's requested a trade. Doesn't look like Kenny Golladay is coming back. They brought in a new head coach who wants to play smash mouth football. And if I'm not mistaken, he actually said they're going to bite the knees off their opponents, whatever that means. And they just brought in Anthony Lynn as the offensive coordinator, which means we're probably going to see more running, more throwing to the running backs. So I wasn't super high on DeAndre Swift when he landed in Detroit. I wasn't super high on DeAndre Swift after the 2020 season in Detroit. But now it looks like everything's pointing up for DeAndre Swift. I think number 10 is fair and could honestly go even higher as the offseason progresses, depending on what the Lions do.
Swift, definitely a talented runner, nothing against him, but now it looks like he could be one of the greatest values in all of Dynasty. I mean, if he's going to be used as a receiver as much as promised, it's, we got to temper expectations a little bit, but I think he definitely slots in the top 10, especially due to his youth. Another rookie coming off of the 2020 season, I definitely had high expectations for Cam Akers, and finally, it took a while, but finally they were met, and now Akers firmly has a spot in the top 10 here. Look, this team obviously has changed its identity. They can't just rely on Jared Goff, and you know what? There's some rumors now that maybe the relationship there between Jared Goff and Sean McVay is a little strained. Goff will probably still be the quarterback, but could have a very short leash. But the bottom line is this is an offense that's going to rely more on its running back in Cam Akers, and that already started. Look, after week 10, he, for the last 6 games, including the playoffs, averaged 22 carries per game. All right, so not only was he getting the ball the most, the featured role here as a running back, he was the only guy really getting the ball. Darrell Henderson was an afterthought, and with as badly as the season ended there for Goff, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a run-first team all through next season. And Akers has shown he's got that explosive ability that you've got to love, and he's a good pass catcher too. There's nothing else you could really ask for in running back. So I'm almost tempted to put him even higher, except that we have so many other good running backs ahead of him on this list.
Yeah, and he could definitely be higher after the 2021 season because it does look like he's going to be the guy there in Los Angeles, have that Todd Gurley role. I don't know if he'll quite have that Todd Gurley season or ceiling that we saw from Todd Gurley, but you hit it on the head. Can catch passes, can run between the tackles. He can do everything you want. A true 3-down back, which is very rare in today's game. So entering 2021, 9th seems fair, but certainly that could be much, much higher after the 2021 season. And then at number 8, we have Derrick Henry. And it might seem crazy to have Derrick Henry 8th, but there are reasons to be a little nervous about him in Dynasty. Number 1, he's entering his age 27 season, which we know is about that time when running backs begin to slow down. Number 2, he's had back-to-back seasons with over 300 carries, which we also know can have an effect, wear and tear on a running back's body. Now, Derrick Henry seems to be a freak of nature, a complete anomaly, but still, you got to worry about the age and all the workload he's had recently. And again, this guy, he doesn't catch passes, so we know he's not running for over 2,000 yards again. Probably. I said that last year about 1,600 yards, and I was wrong. More than likely not running for 2,000 yards again. You got to think that number's coming way back down, and you got to really start to be concerned, when is he going to hit that running back cliff? So not ready to give up on him just yet because, again, coming off a 2,000-yard season, and he seems to be a freak, anomaly, outlier type of guy. But still, you got to be a little concerned, and I don't think I'd have him over some of the younger guys that we're going to talk about going forward.
They're legit concerns for Dynasty. Again, for redraft, you can say, well, all running backs get hurt. It might break down. Of course, any running back might break down, but you have to take all that wear and tear into consideration. So that's why you have to keep him a little bit lower. And number 6, now we're going to go with another guy who's mostly been a workhorse, Nick Chubb. Did miss several games this season, but was just fine when he came back. Wound up averaging 89 rushing yards per game and a touchdown per game. Here's my only concern with Chubb, and this might sound weird because it's usually the opposite, but this is a team that relied so much on the run throughout the first half of the season, and especially once Chubb first came back, between Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And they kind of did it to protect Baker Mayfield because he was still turnover prone. He still wasn't, living up to expectations. And at the very end of the season, when the Browns finally took a step forward offensively as a team, Baker Mayfield really showed up finally. And I almost worry that maybe they're going to rely less on the run because maybe Mayfield has arrived and maybe this is a team that can run offense the way they want to through the passing game. Odell Beckham should be back next year. And so I just wonder if Chubb maybe won't get quite the volume that he did this year, but still that's a minor concern. And he's still pretty locked in as a safe top 10 dynasty running back.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern though, especially with Kareem Hunt there. We've talked about it numerous times that, for as good as Chubb is, and he is great, right? He's one of the best pure runners in the NFL. Kareem Hunt does cap his ceiling to a bit, right? Hurts him a little bit in the passing game, definitely hurts him some around the goal line. And that alone is enough to keep him, this low, even though he's a great dynasty asset. If you have Nick Chubb, you're feeling just great. You might not be feeling as great about the next guy, and that's Ezekiel Elliott, but I think there's reasons to feel good. We saw what he did last year with Dak Prescott. In those first 5 games with Dak Prescott, he was one of the best fantasy running backs you could have. It wasn't until after the Dak Prescott injury that his value really plummeted. And he's still relatively young. He's signed to that big contract, so you don't have to worry about, free agency or his situation changing. Now, if Dak Prescott, if they can't work out a deal or if they don't franchise him, which I don't think is going to happen. They're either going to work out a deal or they're going to franchise him. But if they don't, then sure, Ezekiel Elliott's value would plummet at that point. But as of now, you got to think he's going to be rolling into 2021 with a healthy Dak Prescott, which is great for his fantasy value. And we saw in those last 2 games that he played last year, we kind of saw a little bit of the Ezekiel Elliott we've come to know from a fantasy perspective. And I think that's what we're going to see again in 2021. So don't panic on Ezekiel Elliott yet. We still have him inside the top 10.
It's pretty obvious what happened to that Cowboy offense and why. All right, Dak should be fine next year. But you know what? There are some people, maybe they're loaded at running back. Maybe it's worth fielding an offer. I don't know. It depends, of course, on your particular league. But Zeke at one point, probably last year, was considered a solid top 3 dynasty running back. His stock has slipped just a little bit. So if you think he can, rise back up to that level, now would be the time to go ahead and try to buy him. All right, before we get to our top 5, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. We're going to be here all offseason long with Dynasty content to help you out. Give us a thumbs up and leave us a comment. Let us know, what do you think of these rankings? Who would you have in the top 10? Maybe we missed somebody.
And if you want to support the channel, just impress your friends and family, we're happy to announce we've just launched some brand new fantasy football endgame apparel. We've got shirts, long sleeves, hoodies, available in every size, pretty much every color. If you want to get yours and impress your friends, just click the link in the description below.
Number 5, the guy that we both agreed was the fantasy MVP for 2020, Alvin Kamara, is our number 5 dynasty running back. How could he possibly be not just lower than number 1, but number 5? Okay, well, there's some legitimate question about his role going forward. Yeah, he's still going to be the man at running back for the Saints. Who's the quarterback going to be? It isn't going to be Drew Brees. We know that. And Brees had a heavy reliance on the check down, passing the ball to Kamara. His bread and butter isn't even as a runner, it's as a receiver. Okay, one of the leading receivers in the league at running back. That changed. We saw it change drastically when Taysom Hill was at quarterback. So even if it's Jameis Winston or somebody else at quarterback, it will not be the same as when Brees was at quarterback. Now, is Kamara definitely going to be an RB1? Yes. Top 10? Definitely. Number 1, number 2? I don't think so. And we've talked about this before, Chris. You've talked about this at length. It's just not going to be the exact same offense. So there's some concern that maybe his ceiling just isn't quite as high.
Yeah, you definitely got to be concerned because all the writing on the wall is that Taysom Hill is going to be the guy, right? He's signed to a big contract. They don't have any cap space to go out and sign other people. Don't talk yourself into Jameis Winston coming back on another one-year deal when he just got shafted by the Saints, right? He signed a one-year deal to be Drew Brees' backup, and then when he had the chance to play, they said, nah, we're going with Taysom Hill. It's not going to be Jameis Winston. It's going to be Taysom Hill. I don't think it will be as bad as the 4 games we saw with Taysom Hill, but it's certainly not going to be as good as the games we saw with Drew Brees. So 5 feels just about right for Alvin Kamara, especially when you consider the other guys ahead of him, like number 4, and that's Dalvin Cook. Now, this might seem a little low for Dalvin Cook, but you do have to understand he's got a little more wear and tear on his tires than the next 3 guys we're going to talk about. He's a little bit older, and that's pretty much the only reason why he's below the top 3 guys. We know he's a stud. This is a team that wants to run the ball, but we've seen Dalvin Cook, get banged up before. He had injuries in college. He had injuries early as a pro, gets dinged up from time to time. So you do have to have a little concern about, like I said, that wear and tear. But other than that, he's a locked-in stud. If you got him, you just roll them every year, and you feel great about it.
Dalvin Cook, I mean, no question, he is the man, going to be the man going forward in Minnesota for a while. All right, number 3, though, it's the youth movement. That's right. I think it's time to finally put Jonathan Taylor among the elite. I know it's a very small sample of excellence, but still, this is what we expected all along in Indianapolis with an excellent offensive line. The only question is, once again, who's going to be the quarterback? We don't know right now. Is it going to be Matthew Stafford? That would be a perfect fit, but we don't know. So that might be the only question, but still, it doesn't matter because this is going to be a team that wants to run the damn ball. They're going to continue to do so. Jonathan Taylor, 130 rushing yards per game after their Week 12 bye. All right, and that's something you see commonly with rookies, right? After the bye, they get their legs underneath them, have a chance to take a breather, and then go out and do what they've been expected to do. Taylor did just that, and there's no question he's going to be the man for years to come.
Yeah, Taylor could legitimately be the running back 1 in Dynasty after 2021 if we see from him what we saw down the stretch in 2020 and the Colts say, hey, he's our guy. Because when he was drafted by the Colts, obviously there was tons of hype behind a great offensive line. He has all the makings of an every down running back in the NFL, and he proved he can do it. So if he gets that workload in 2021, not far-fetched to think he will be the overall Dynasty running back 1. And you mentioned this guy, our Dynasty running back 2, and that's Saquon Barkley. And I know it's easy to be a little worried about him coming off that major ACL injury, but he suffered that injury early in Week 2. He's going to be 100% entering next season. And don't forget, he hasn't even turned 24 years old yet, right? He's still only 23 years old. Sure, he'll be 24 when the season starts, but this is still an extremely young running back, an explosive running back, who we've seen be incredibly successful at the NFL level. And we know that in this Giants offense, he is the guy. He gets the ball between the tackles. He catches the passes. He's pretty much the entire offense. Don't be worried about that injury. He's going to be totally fine. He's still an extremely young running back. He's got to be your Dynasty number 2.
Every player gets injured at some point, don't they? And, the thing that you might be worried most about shouldn't be the guy who's been injured. It's the one that hasn't yet. The injury is still to come. Barkley doesn't have that much wear and tear on his body. The age has to be a factor. And, with his ability, again, in Dynasty, you want to shoot for ceiling, right? You want the guy who could be that league winner for years to come. And Barkley definitely still that guy. And our number 1 pick, not surprising here, it's still Christian McCaffrey. Disappointing season to be sure. But again, this isn't like Barkley with an ACL injury. This is something that really was just kind of slow played by the team. They had no reason to rush him back. And he could have probably played a lot of the season that he didn't. So don't worry about that. And believe it or not, Christian McCaffrey, 4 seasons under his belt. He's just 24 years old also. So he's got youth on his side. When he's on the field, there is no doubt he is the top running back in the game, production-wise. Okay, so for his career, averaging 114 total yards per game, it's something that you can't get pretty much from any other running back. I know Barkley has the pass-catching chops. There's so many other players on this list that can produce at a high level, but McCaffrey does it every single game, both running and receiving. It doesn't matter who the quarterback's going to be. It doesn't matter who the coach is going to be. He's proven he is the guy.
Yeah, McCaffrey still has to be number one. I know there's going to be a lot of people concerned. But again, like you said, look at the injuries. High ankle sprain, that's not something that's going to linger for the rest of his career. The shoulder, that's not going to linger for the rest of his career, right? These were just football injuries that happened. And I talked about it. He had never missed a game in his entire NFL career, never missed a game in college, despite being a workhorse. His body can handle it. It was just one of those years where he got an injury and then it piled up into another injury. And yeah, the Panthers slow played him. He's going to be fine next year. He's going to be the guy. He's going to get more touches, more opportunities, and he's going to score more fantasy points, probably than anybody in fantasy. So don't panic on Christian McCaffrey. If you got him, you've got the best running back, even in Dynasty football.
All right, those are our top 10 Dynasty running backs heading into 2021. Let's see what happens in the NFL draft. Do you think any of these rookies will come in and make this list right away, depending on where they land, of course? Let's see. Who do you think has the best chance? Is it Travis Etienne? Is it Najee Harris? Is it somebody else? Or do you think this list is pretty solid? Let us know. And of course, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We appreciate it. Thanks for watching.